Hello, welcome to Cat's Got Your Tongue, the podcast in association with Cats Protection. My name's Adam Brown. I'm the host of this podcast and I am a self-confessed cat lover and a cat dad as well. The proud owner of, I was going to call her my daughter. She is essentially a lovely cat, a magnificent, beautiful tortoiseshell cat called Ruby. And this podcast is all about the world of cats. We've got celebrity guests, we've got funny stories regarding cats, and we're here to solve your cat dilemmas as well. Now, as much as I love cats, there is still a lot that I don't know about them, and I'm learning every day. It's like I'm trying to become a better cat owner each and every day, which is why every week on the podcast I'm joined by our cat expert from Cats Protection. Nicky is here again.
Hiya, how you doing, Adam?
I'm good. I feel like I'm learning each time we do it. I'm becoming a much more rounded cat owner, which is good.
More cat savvy.
I'm so cat savvy now,
Definitely.
honestly. Yeah, and the thing is as well is that there's so many little hints and tips that you're given over the course of this series that like as soon as you say them, I'm like, oh, why didn't I? Yeah, of course, that's right.
But you don't need to feel embarrassed because we've all been there and we've all had to learn these things. So we've all done things that nowadays we probably wouldn't do, but that's okay. And I feel like cats are so cool because you get to learn new stuff all the time. Like anyone who, is considered a cat expert, there's loads that they've all got to learn as well. Yeah. And there's new stuff every day.
Yeah, and there's still like research going on into different parts of cat behaviour, I imagine, as well.
Definitely. I think it's fun learning new stuff about cats all the time. It
is. So, I mean, some of the stuff does see... when you say it, I'm like, yeah, that's well obvious. Why was I not doing that before? But you don't, like I say, you don't know until you're doing it. And I suppose if this podcast can help people in that way, because I'm just like, your average cat owner, where I'll make mistakes, not on purpose. And, that's what it's all about, I suppose, isn't it? Trying to kind of get those little insights, little hints, little tips, hacks almost that can make owning a cat that little bit easier. Now, Nicky is on hand to answer any questions that you might have about your cat or the world of cats in general. You can get in touch with us. Just give us a shout, pod@cats.org.uk. And of course, it's not just about advice and questions. We will also hear your funny stories, cat-related dilemmas, anything that kind of springs to mind when you think about cats that you've always wanted to know the answer to. Your cat's tales, that is coming up a little bit later on today on the podcast. We're going to go through those with our very special guest who's alongside myself and Nicky going to answer questions that have been sent in by you, the listener of this podcast. So I think without further ado, we should get him in. So each week on Cat's Got Your Tongue, we're joined by a guest who absolutely loves cats. And I know this guy adores his cats, potentially as much as me, which is a lot, Nicky.
It is a lot.
It is a lot. I mean, look at my shirt. And today's guest is a brilliant stand-up comedian about to embark on his 2024 UK tour called The Sunshine Kid. It is the brilliant Jake Lambert. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Thank you very much. How are you?
Yeah, we're good. I think we're all right. We're excited about...
Lovely intro.
Yeah, would you like to be impressed with it?
Very nice. Thank you.
What would you like about it? Just the fact it had all the details?
It had everything. It usually at the end, they're like, have you got anything to sell? I don't have to do anything. You've done it all.
There you go.
I can leave now. You pitched it.
So we're looking forward to talking all things cats with you. Because I met you at the National Cat Awards last year.
Yes, we did. Yes.
We had a bit of a chit chat there and I was like, this guy loves his cats. And I just instantly bonded over that. So I'm really excited to kind of dig a little bit deeper into your weird and wonderful kind of take on the world of cats. Because I got a little bit of an insight at the Cat Awards, but I'm excited to see.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm intrigued to see where we go. The way we like to start, Jake, is with a little bit of a sort of quick fire sort of series of questions to kind of find out a little bit more about your relationship with cats and more about your cat. So have you always been a cat person?
No.
Oh.
No, that came from actually an ex-girlfriend of mine had a cat. And I'd always liked the idea of them. Remember when I was at like university, a house opposite ours had a cat that would always come into our house. And I liked that one. And I was like, that's a nice cat. And then I dated her and she had this cat who was very one of the classic standoffish, like it just wouldn't give you attention unless she was ready. And then one day I was just sat on the sofa and the cat just came over and just sat on my lap. And at that moment I was like, oh my God, this feels incredible. And it was like, I've always had, there's so many dogs that jump up and I love dogs. Dogs are lovely. But just the feeling, I was like, oh, I've never felt more sort of like I've earned something. And then it was crazy the way it happened. And it was only me and the cat in the room. Like her family were all out the room and it just came and sat. I was like, this is unbelievable. I've been chosen.
Yeah, oh, it is like the
chosen
chosen one. Honestly, that is such a thing for like cat lovers and cat owners. That, and sometimes if you with your partner or whatever, and the cat chooses you, that's just like
That's it,
best
exactly.
feeling, isn't it? I mean, you don't want to brag, you don't want to seem like you're being cocky, but there's a little bit of a knowing look to say, yeah, I'm the favourite. Yeah. But I think that is,
They don't lie.
Yeah, that's it. But I think that's a really interesting kind of way to, like a gateway to becoming a cat person. It is that kind of feeling that you've kind of earned it.
Yeah.
I suppose that's what's different to having a dog, I suppose, isn't it?
They love anybody, especially if you've got food.
Yeah, that's just it. Whereas a
Let's be
cat,
honest.
yeah, you do feel like you've earned it a lot more.
You're worthy.
Yeah, this is it.
Of their love.
So tell us about your cat, Jake.
Yes. So my cat is called Richard Parker, and what you need to know before sort of really we go into any detail about him is that he's only got one eye. Which is quite a defining feature. But he got trigger warning for listeners, but he got shot with a BB gun when he was about 7 months old. Aww. And I do have to say, I had him at this point. He was mine. So he came back one day crying at the back door. It was awful. Sorry, I know this has got very heavy very early. But but now, of course, he's unbelievable. So he came back. His eye was red. I thought maybe a fox or another cat had got him or something. And I took him to the vet and they were like, oh, there's like a BB bullet still in there. I can see it. So they took it out. And I just can't believe how like resilient he was. So he got like this tower that he only eats dry food. So I've got this tower. So when he couldn't go out, he would still have to sort of, use his brain and his physical energy if he wanted to eat, just so I knew he wouldn't be sitting around sort of putting on weight. But what happened was I put up signs down the street on trees just like to warn other cat owners of what had happened. And as I was putting them up, so many people, and he was only I'd say about 7-8 months old at this point. As I was putting them up, my neighbours who I'd never really spoken to, I'd not lived there even that long. This was when I was in Tooting. I don't live there anymore, but they would go, oh, was that your cat? And I'd say, yeah. And they go, he's always in our garden. We love him. And there was one lady, she was a carer. And she was like, this old lady who I lived next door to, I'd never spoken to. They were like, she's always saying he comes into the kitchen, just sits with her and she loves him. She wondered what had happened, where he'd gone. And I was like, oh, well, let her know he's okay. He'll be back out soon. And he was. And then I had this like conservatory. And as he was like eating, other cats used to appear the other side of the conservatory outside, just sit there while he ate. They were just all like they were taking care of him. And I got back one night and they were like, in fact, when he started to go out a little bit, I would leave the back door open. He would go into the garden, never go too far. And I came downstairs once and just him and another cat were just chilling out in the kitchen together. And I didn't realize like he was such a sociable cat and had all these friends. And these cats just came and started visiting him. It was unreal. It's so lovely. So he's just, now he goes out all the time. He loves being out and he can do anything, like, and even you see him walking along the fence and you think he's going to slip because he's got one eye, but somehow he just manages to make it work.
Yeah. I mean, is that quite a common thing? I mean, the thought of someone doing that to a cat is just
unthinkable.
It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, but I guess it does happen. Like,
yeah, sadly it does, and particularly with like air gun pellets is a really common one, and it's something that Cats Protection's been campaigning against. So it is serious, and certainly if any, like you've done, you take your cat straight to the vets if there are any injuries, and try and get them sorted.
You wouldn't believe just how resilient they are.
They
were like, and they were saying to me, they were like, he won't remember that he had two eyes. He just thinks this is what I see, and he just carries on. They were like, even if he had no eyes, he would still just be like, this is me. I just get through it. Like, they're incredible. I mean, it was an awful thing to happen, but it's just, he can do any, like, he sits on command. He can shake the paw. He jumps for a hoop.
Amazing.
He can do anything. He's amazing. And so good at like communicating. Like, he's got a drawer in the kitchen, which is where his food and his toys, everything are. And he just goes and sits by it and looks at me. And then I have to like figure out, like, he's like what he wants. And I can like, he's got this favorite toy thing that I like throw around that's like on a stick and he sort of catches it. So I'll open the drawer and I'll get his tub with his food and I'll get this toy and he'll just sit there and look at me, and I'm like, right, it's not either of those two things. Then I'll get like a catnip fish toy thing, and he'll just start rubbing his head up against it. I'm like, he's just letting me know, yeah, that's what I wanted, and then he just goes and plays with it. It's unreal.
So good. Their sensors, if they lose, like say an eye, for example, their sensors, other sensors will heighten. So he will probably they've already got amazing hearing, but that will then probably heighten a bit more. I mean, for balancing on the fence, for example, they'll be using their tail, and even like, because there's lots of parts of a cat that people aren't necessarily aware of. You know, they've got like the kind of like whisker type things on the back of their wrists that will detect like air pressure and movements and things. So then they can use all of these information coming in just to help them balance. And they've got the back of the brain called the cerebellum, which is your sort of center for balance, is way bigger in a cat proportionately compared to in a person. So the design-wise, they're just amazing at balance and doing things. So even just, missing an eye, they can still function amazingly well.
If he's got all this energy, I like throw his food for him. Like, as I say, it's like, obviously it's dry. If it was wet, that'd be an absolute mess. But I like throw the dry food around, and he'll like run after it, you know, whatever ridiculous speed he can move. And then like, if the door is open ajar, he can like just slide around the door, and like the speed that they're doing all this stuff. And you go, and again, as you say, with one eye, but using every other part that he needs to use to be able to, just to know this is here, like ducks under a chair leg as it's going. He's just so quick, and his reactions are unbelievable. So it makes sense, as you say, he's got, what did you say was at the back of the head?
Which is just part of the brain.
Yeah.
But that's good for balance.
Theirs is just exceptional.
Yeah, it's bigger proportionately than a human's. What you should do with your cat is record them in slow-mo and then really enjoy that bit when they're sliding past the door. Just watch that in slow-mo. A beautiful moment.
So Jake, tell us about the name. I'm assuming it's a Life of Pi reference.
It is, yes. I think I just read the book as I got him. Or I think even as I was reading the book, I was thinking, if I ever get a cat, I'm going to call it Richard Parker. And then he became into my life. That it was an opportunity that somebody had some kittens, and I was like, I will take him. I will rescue him. He's mine. I look after him. And I thought at first, we actually thought he was a girl when we first went to visit him. But I straight away knew that was what I wanted. So even though he's completely black, looks nothing like a tiger, even at the point it was a girl, it was always going to be called Richard Parker.
You were absolutely adamant that it was going to be Richard Parker. No matter what.
Yeah. And it's always Richard Parker as well. Sometimes like, I had some friends come over and over New Year's, and they were like, "Oh, hello, Richard," and I was like, "No, it's Richard Parker every time." It's just it doesn't mean anything to him otherwise. He can't comprehend what you're saying.
So how long have you had him for then?
So now I've had him for. He'll be 7 in March. So I've had him for probably 6 and a bit years.
Yeah.
Whenever they said whatever age it is, you can go and pick them up. I don't know what it was, but I was there the next day.
Yeah. And does he have the full run of the house? Is he the only pet you've got?
Yes, he's the only pet, and so he's got the full run of the house. And it's more like that I'm allowed to go wherever I like.
Yeah. But I mean, you did mention. I remember when we did meet at the Cat Awards and we were having a chat, and you were telling me about the double life that you found out obviously after what had happened to him, that he was leading this double life. Does he still do that then? People where you live now, is he like popular in the neighbourhood sort of thing?
Well, I don't know around here actually. He's certainly got more of a run of it where there are foxes around, but he will like chase them off if he sees them. They seem to be more scared. I don't quite understand how that works, but they seem to be scared of him. But they can probably see that like he's clearly survived stuff. This cat's been through things we can't imagine. So I don't actually know. As the issue is, I live in London, so you don't speak to your neighbours that much. So we've got he might have friends all over the place. He's probably a lot more than I do.
Yeah, he's probably a lot more friendly with the neighbours than you are, essentially. Yeah,
exactly that. So all that's funny is that we've got the garden that backs onto our garden. They have a dog, and so what happens is I know if it's dark out. I know when he's coming back because I just suddenly hear that dog start barking, and then suddenly Richard Parker appears up on the fence. I'm like, that dog's letting me know your cat's coming
That's
back.
brilliant. It's like a little alarm that you don't even have to pay for. That's great.
You realise you hear the birds all warning each other. He's back. You just hear it all happen.
Just lots of warnings going off as he's making his way back into the house.
That's it.
So personality-wise, obviously, he sounds like he's super confident, and despite the fact that he's had this kind of issue earlier in his life, and the disability of just having one eye. Personality-wise, what's he like? Is he just super boisterous and loves playing?
Yeah, loves playing, which is great. And I remember when he was young, maybe reading something somewhere, I'm not sure if this is true, but they were like, always play with your cat and then they won't stop playing. Like, it's only when you stop that they sort of just learn to like stop doing it. So he always has toys out, or always playing with him. Really sociable. So if I've got people over, it's only when it's like a tradesperson comes in that he does the like the really funny like low running stealth thing they do, where he must feel that he must know that like, Jake seems quite awkward around this person, so I'm going to be the same. So he just sort of runs and hides. But then, like, if friends are coming over and he sees we're all socialising, he'll just be sat with us and he'll be like going up like to people's legs and rub up against them, and he'll just, if there's like a party going on, I think he thinks like, oh, me and Jake have got friends over.
That's nice. Is that true, Nicky, about playing with cats? Because I know obviously some cats as they get older tend to be less likely to play, but is it something that if you do consistently, you could do potentially into quite an old age?
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's just about modifying play as they get older as well. So particularly if they get a bit arthritic, it's about having slightly slower games, always making sure that the cats can actually sort of catch and sort of inverted commas kill the toy, because that's what releases the endorphins. But I mean, I know 19, 20-year-old cats that still love to play. So yeah, I think it's brilliant that you're playing with a cat every day, and I'd thoroughly recommend that for everybody.
Yeah, and then obviously in terms of the cat being sociable, like my cat isn't really that sociable, but I've got a feeling that I got her when she was 7, and as a rescue, I think that she had quite a bit of a kind of a tough start and things like that. So I always wish that, like, if I have friends over or whatever, that she will come and join us, but she's not really going to do that. Yeah, I always have this dream that one day she might just be like, I'm going to come and join you. And I'll be like, oh my God, but I feel like that's not going to happen now. But is that going to happen, Nicky? Are you just going to tell me that's it, the dream's over?
Well, I think it depends on like the person that's coming over, as Jake's pointed out.
Yeah.
So I think if you start off with like one person that she gets to know, and that person needs to be sort of cat friendly in terms of like ignoring the cat, really. So it's like the opposite of a cat person, really.
Yeah.
So you want to be like, sit there, like avoid eye contact to start with. Don't look at them, don't talk to them. Almost a bit like hard to get.
Yeah.
But then in cat language, that's like really non-threatening, and that's good.
Yeah.
And also, if they can be like make themselves smaller, so like just sitting quietly on the floor and maybe sort of playing with a toy nearby, and they can sort of win her over that way.
Yeah.
And that consistency of getting used to the same person can make a difference. I don't think she'll necessarily going to be like a party girl though.
No, it's either that or to say to my friends that when you come round, you've got to have your clothes that's lined in catnip. But
that could be quite dangerous. They're going to like straight in with the claws, Maybe chuck you a few dreamies or something.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, bring the dreamies. Jake, something that we do speak about on this podcast quite a lot is, and bear in mind, this is a safe space for cat lovers. We absolutely adore cats. So we know that as cat owners and cat enthusiasts, that everyone has a little voice that they have for their own cat. So I don't for 1 second believe you've not got a voice. I have. Honestly, mine's terrible. I speak to my cat like she's a baby constantly, and call her every name apart from her actual name, like variations of a name that somehow then it gets like skewed into a different kind of name that sounds like her name or some nickname. We all do
baby
it.
of the world.
I called my cat the baby of the world. I don't even know what it means.
Baby of the world.
The greatest animal to have ever lived as well. And I mean, I stand by that, to be honest with you. And just ridiculous names. So I don't know if you do similar with nicknames, and do you have like a voice that you do for Richard Parker? I mean, although I do feel like you're quite particular about him getting his full title. Yes,
that's it. As I say, it's always Richard Parker. And I remember really early on, the vet I went to take him to get his checkup, he was like, "Oh, you'll come up with some name at some point." And that was, as I say, 7 years. And no, it's always Richard Parker. But it's just got the rhythm to it, where that's the issue when someone comes in and just says Richard. It makes no sense to me, because it has to be Richard Parker. It just got that rhythm to it. And that's what he responds to. So I think I've got but also I don't know what it is in me, but because I don't have children, and I wouldn't want to have children of my own. So whenever someone's like, "Oh, you're like his cat dad," I'm like, no. I'm like his best friend. So I think it means that I don't do the sort of baby thing, but I just go he's just sort of becomes buddy. Yeah, okay, buddy, or hello, Richard Parker. You just end up doing that sort of thing. But I would if I was really giddy and excited to. Oh, no, obviously I don't say when I see my friends. I'm like, "Hello, Jamie." But
I'd love it if you did though. That'd be amazing.
Maybe I'll try it.
Yeah.
Let him know how I feel. But it's so he has got a voice, but I'm not sure how I could turn it on. But I know it happens on podcasts, because often I realise now, for example, he's on his armchair in the corner over there asleep. So I realise if he wakes up, and if I'm doing and there must be a strange thing, sorry, for cats, since Zoom and stuff came in, because obviously to him, I'm just sort of sat suddenly staring at my computer for an hour, just going ba 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 ba. So he comes over to me "Are you okay?" So I've listened back to myself on podcasts. I've heard me just being also, I've got to go let my cat out, and then I'll be like, "Come on in, he's gonna let you out," and I'm like, "Oh, I have got the voice. I didn't realize I had a voice."
Honestly, I don't know. I'm doing it sometimes. So when friends come around or whatever, and I'll go, "Oh, I'm just gonna go and feed Ruby, my cat," and then they say "You just turned into a different person in the kitchen." It's you just that's and you don't know you're doing it. You're not aware that you're doing it. And I'm like you, Jake. I don't have children, but I do see Ruby as being my child, so I suppose I probably communicate to her in that way, I imagine. But I think we mentioned it before on the podcast, Nicky, that cats will respond to a sound or tonally rather than the actual name. So that might be when you say Richard Parker in that way, Jake, he's kind of now familiar with that kind of the sound rather than the actual words.
Definitely. And I think that's why a lot of people do have some form of cat voice, because the cats respond more likely to it. And also for the cat, they can differentiate it from, like you say, the general chit chat from being on a podcast or whatever, your normal voice to other people, compared to your cat voice of orientating yourself towards them. Then suddenly they're like, "Oh, this one concerns me."
That's true. Just so he knows it's different.
Really?
Yeah, that's a very good point.
And I think we just do it subconsciously.
Yeah, which makes sense, I guess, doesn't it? Because otherwise it'd be so weird if I was in the morning, I was like, "Hi, Richard Parker, you okay? Do you want some food or anything?" Or it'd be such a weird thing to talk to your cat in just your normal voice. Be like, "Do you want some food or do you want to play?" What sort of thing you up? If you saw someone do that, you'd go, "This person."
That's actually way stranger than doing a cat voice.
Yeah. We to call the RSPCA. They should not be allowed new animals.
Just one thing I want to pick up on there, Jake. Did you say that he was sitting in his armchair?
Oh, sorry. That is the classic thing, isn't it?
No, is it? Well, have you bought an armchair specifically for your cat?
No, I bought it for me, but I've never sat in it.
Yeah.
I bought it about 4 years ago for me, and I've never been able to sit in it. So no, he's got his own armchair, which is the sort of thing, if you own a cat, you'll say something that to you has become so normal, and then as you say, then suddenly you go, "Sorry, did you say your cat has their own armchair?" And you go, "Yeah, sorry, yes, it did."
No, I think with me, I was about to say, I've got a lot of time for that. I think that's really cool that you've done that. He bought him his own armchair. Yeah, I'm all for that. So does he get spoiled at all? Are you would you spend, a little bit, maybe what people might consider a bit too much money on? I do. I spoil my cat all the time. I know he shouldn't, but I do.
The issue is, I'm not sure if all cats like this, or if it's just Richard Parker, but if you buy something for him, you cannot make a big deal about it. Because if there's this blue bed thing we've got down here that's by the radiator, but he's not been in that in 2 years. But I can't bring myself to take it away in case he ever decides he wants it. So I bought that, and that's there. I remember he used it for a month once, and he loved it, and he was always in it. Then he's not gone near it again. But then the armchair I buy for me, And obviously I don't make a big fuss. I wasn't like, oh, come and look at the armchair. What do you think of this? But he's decided that's mine. So now if somebody buys him something, I say, by the way, just leave it in the corner of the room and don't draw any attention to it. And he'll go and go, this is now mine. Yeah. But if you go, come and look at this, he's like, no, I'm fine. And obviously they would then rather just go and sit in the cardboard box that it came in than the thing you spent £60 on or whatever.
That happens a lot, that.
It really does.
Like, and even with toys and stuff like that, and you get a new toy, make a big deal of it. Wow, look at this. And then you turn around and the cat's playing with a Ferrero Rocher wrapper or something. It's like
Yes,
and I'm like, I can't even send it back now. Like, I've opened it. So, I mean, is it just something that we perceive, Nicky, or is there a little bit of truth in it? Or is it just something that we go, oh, I think there's got to be some truth in it.
I think so. And particularly, like you're saying, about making a big deal out of things, I think cats just generally don't like that. Like, particularly with scratch posts, it's really common for people to try and encourage their cat to use a scratch post by picking up the cat's front legs and then scratch it on the post. And that's like the most off-putting thing to the cat. Whereas if you just had it in a sensible place and ignored it, then the cat would be like, oh, this is great, I'll use this. And with the beds, for example, apart from your armchair, which doesn't fit this, but normally cats will rotate around their sleeping place. And it goes back to African wildcat behaviour, and they do it too. They think with African wildcats, it's to prevent a build-up of external parasites so that they keep moving around. And that's the way of dealing with it. So with the beds, if you were to move that blue bed you bought into a different location, potentially he then might use it again. And we've had it before with with some of our cats protection fosterers. They've had the same situation. All cat people, we all suffer with it. But they just were like, oh, just put it out the way. And they put it in their kitchen somewhere up high. And then it was like nice and warm. They could view the surroundings. And suddenly the cat who'd been ignoring this for ages was like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. Where's this been all my life? And start using it. So sometimes just mixing it up and moving things around that they don't use can bring it that kind of new novelty and new perspective of the room.
Yeah, my cat completely does that. Like it's very much something's flavour of the month, and then it's moving on to a different spot then. Like, when I'd cleared out the spare room quite recently, and then she discovered under the desk, and that was like her favourite thing then for ages. Yeah. So I was like, oh, amazing. I was like, well, I'll add a blanket to it and like make it, and that was it then. I had the blanket and I've ruined it. I'm like, oh, I've made it better, surely. Nah, you've ruined it.
It's like, she's like, no, that's so uncool. It's so uncool to make an effort at a spot. I prefer like when it was more underground. I just sort of discovered it.
Yeah, I prefer the desk's early stuff. Yeah. Yeah, and I was, trying to help it, yeah. And then she moved on to, there's like I've got like a nest of 3 tables, like coffee tables. And there's like a tiny gap now between that and the sofa. And every day I was looking for it, and I was like, why have you gone under there? Like, and that's a new favourite thing now. And I've given up trying to even sort of, explain it. I'm just like, I'm just going to embrace the chaos and the madness of my cat.
Exactly. And I do think sometimes it is that. I do think cats are quite hipster in that they do like a new spot, and they're like, no, I like it. And I know you never thought this would be what's cool, but I'm here now. So like, in fact, actually, what is very hipster of him is he goes and sits now up on like the vinyl record player, which obviously comes in like plastic case at the top to protect it. So he goes and sits on that, and he loves it. And that's very new. That's in like the last 2 months, but he loves it. And I posted a photo on Instagram, just my story of him sat up there. So many people were replying saying, yep, my cat does that. Oh my God, they love the record player. And I'm like, what is it? Is there like some static thing coming off of it? Or were they like, this is very cool?
Yeah, they know they look cool. They know they're going to get pictures posted on Instagram looking really, really cool. So like, your cat will be like, he cannot resist taking a picture of me sat up here, obviously. I'm going to look amazing.
Warm up? Get warm up there?
To get warm? I don't think it would get warm up there necessarily, would it? Or...
Well, it's a classic thing. I don't even use it that much, so it's not like it's even been used and it's sort of warmed up. It's just, I don't know. Maybe next time I'll go and put my hand on there and see if it's warm or anything. But he just loves curling up on it. And I don't know if it's because he thinks, that looks like somewhere I shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But then what's interesting as well is as you were saying before about they like to rotate and have certain spots. Mine is the bottom right of the bed. Now, he doesn't come in the bedroom at night. He's not allowed in. He'll sometimes meow out the door and he tries. Although what happens is, so we've got a garden and a balcony. So if he's out at night, he comes to the balcony door knowing that's where I am. He'll meow there, let him in through the door. And he just knows to walk straight through the bedroom. He's like, I'm not going to waste my time trying anymore. But the bedroom's then open for him during the day. And it's the bottom right of the bed that he curls up in. So much so that I have to now realize, like, if I've done like a clothes wash, I can't put like the clean pile at that point. If I just put them just even like a foot to the left, he'll go next to them. But if they're on that bit at all, he's like, then I sit on these then. That's what's happened now.
Go straight on top of him.
A white t-shirt has to go back in the wash because I'm sat back on it.
It's his spot.
When you said about if you buy a sketch post and you put their paws up to it and go, look at, play with this. And as you said, they were like, no, that's the worst thing you could do. So does this mean if you buy a new sofa, the best thing you could possibly do is take your cat up to it and go, look how great this sofa is. And then they will never go near it. Let's see how true that theory is.
I think that would work, but I don't think it's good cat welfare. So, but one thing I would recommend is, and I hope the company forgives me for saying so, but you know, the plastic litter tray liners, cats hate those. They hate them.
Do they?
Yeah, they really hate them. They hate the plastic feel underneath their claws. But for these companies, I want to say, don't worry, I've got a new purpose for them, covering sofas.
Ah, right, okay. Yeah.
So yeah,
Yes.
yeah, because then it's just like that plastic
Yeah.
feel, and they just don't like the feeling under the texture. Whereas most sofas feel great. And the other thing is, cats like to go on their tiptoes when they scratch, and they also put their body weight into it, and they don't want anything moving. And your sofas, your divan beds, textured wallpaper. I mean, if you've got textured wallpaper, you're asking for it, to be honest. But these things don't move; they don't wobble. Whereas, you know, a lot of commercial posts are a bit wobbly.
Yeah,
so.
I know. I've had to put. Well, this shows my dedication to my my gym workouts. I actually used weights to weight down my scratch post. So the weights that I bought during lockdown with the intention of doing home workouts are now just basically to weigh down my scratch posts. So, you know.
Make it nice and stable.
Yeah, and you know what? My mum said I'd never use them. And how wrong was she? Right, do you know what? That's going to be a good moment for us to take a little pause here on Cat's Got Your Tongue. But Jake, you're staying with us. We're going to be going through your cat's tales. This is where listeners of the podcast have got in touch with, you know, questions, dilemmas, cat stories, anything cat related, really. So that's on the way next on Cat's Got Your Tongue. Welcome back to Cat's Got Your Tongue. It's now time for your cat's tales. This is where we get to hear from you, the wonderful listeners of our podcast, with your feline disasters, your success stories, questions about anything from the world of cats, essentially. Anything cat related, we are here to do our very best to help. Jake, have you got like a little cat's tale for us, a little story that you might want to share?
Well, I've got this actually. Before you were asking about whether he's sociable at all with cats now that I've moved. But I did have this one night. As I say, he comes up to the balcony at night when he wants to let in. He'll just sort of meow at the door. I let him in. And I opened the curtain one night, pull it back. And when I opened the door, he was there with another cat. And I think like he'd been out and he's like he'd brought someone back. And that's when as I say, I like to think I'm his friend. But at that point, I did have to go into like dad run and be like, not tonight, not tonight. So like, and then I've never seen that cat again. So I'm not sure if I really like embarrassed him in front of this cat he was trying to bring back. So he did, and he should have had a friend, but I'm afraid that I had to put my foot down and say that he couldn't have a sleepover.
That's, I suppose, it's weird, isn't it? I suppose for outdoor cats, because I've not really got experience of that because my cat's just indoor. But I've got friends who've got outdoor cats, and they've often, they have cat flaps, obviously, in the house, and they've often found other cats in the kitchen and that sort of thing, which is, as cat lovers, I suppose, you probably won't mind, but at the same time, I've had friends who've had cats come in and eat their cat's food and stuff like that, which I imagine could probably unsettle your cat a little bit if there's been another cat roaming around. Yeah,
so that's a very different scenario to what Jake's saying. So that scenario, it's way more common to have like, you know, other cats in the neighbourhood coming in stealing food. And what's difficult is because the resident cat doesn't often show an awful lot outwardly, so people are led to believe, oh, no, it's fine, and they're mates. But really, they're kind of inhibited, and they're almost sort of like, some of them will shut their eyes to try and pretend it's not happening to stop any kind of confrontation and getting beaten up. So it's like being broken into by a thug, and then hoping, and they're stealing your stuff, and you're just like, please don't beat me up. That's how terrifying it is for most cats. And like you say, we think, oh, more cats, that's great. Don't worry about it. Whereas in Jake's scenario, I do think that your cat has found another cat mate and then tried to bring them home. Because genuinely, especially to be up on the balcony together as well, like your cat wouldn't tolerate that if he hated this other cat. So, but equally, I think you've done the right thing, because that cat's very likely to be owned, and he shouldn't be encouraging someone else's cat into your home, particularly to feed someone else's cat. So
I just like the idea that at some point there's been like a little moment of agreement between Richard Parker and this other cat where he's gone, oh, it'll be fine, honestly. My mate who owns
really
the place,
cool.
he's so cool, honestly. And then you get said, I thought you said it'd be okay. That's so cool. I love it. So we're going to move on to some of our questions now. And we've heard from Emily, who's been in touch to say, hey guys, I've got 2 cats, a brother and a sister that I got from Cats Protection as kittens last year. They've got very different temperaments, and the female cat hates being handled, which makes it almost impossible to get her in the cat carrier to go to the vets or the cattery. It's ended up being quite a traumatic event for everyone involved when we've had to do it. Do you have any magic tips for getting her into the basket, please? She's happy to be stroked and likes to sleep on my lap in bed, so she's not unfriendly. She just won't ever let me pick her up, but she's often very skittish and nervous, so I'll try and hide if she senses any attempt to catch her. So this is quite a common thing that I think that everyone who has had a cat at some point has struggled with, like trying to encourage your cat into, a carrier or a basket or whatever. It's really tough, isn't it? Because they know something's wrong.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. They have that negative association with the cat basket. And that's why so many people can identify with this query. So what you need to do is change it from a negative association to a positive association. Because for most cats, that's what you're going to have to do. And so to do that, you want to, first of all, have the cat basket out. Because let's be honest, if everyone listening thinks about where their basket is, it's going to be like in the garage or in the loft or somewhere out of sight. You want to have it out in the living room somewhere or, somewhere accessible. And then you want to make it into a nice cozy den, like a little bed. Put like a blanket over the top so it's sort of a bit darker inside. Have something nice, soft blanket inside that also collects their scent over time and smells of them. And don't wash it just before you go to the vets, because that scent continuity will make them feel safer. And then encourage them gradually near it with like treats and fishing rod toy play, that kind of thing. But International Cat Care, Sarah Ellis has got some brilliant videos online that show you, the sort of baby steps of how to get your cat used to it.
Yeah, because whenever I've taken Ruby, my cat, to the vets in that, and it's a 20-minute drive or whatever, and you just feel awful.
Yeah, and the cry is so sad.
I know. Yeah, and I'm like, you don't even. It's such a different noise as well, and I think that you feel like, and it's hard. You can never explain that it's for their benefit.
No,
do you know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
We all talk to them and we try to reassure them, and that's fine to do. To use your voice, but just know that they don't understand the English you're saying.
So maybe what is it? So just allow them to become more familiar with it, and it's less of an event when the carrier comes out.
Because actually, if you break down a trip to the vets, there's lots of different individual stressors. The cat basket's just one of them. Being in a moving car is another. Then being in a waiting room, particularly where it's like noisy and there's dogs there, for example. There's all the different smells, the disinfectants. So there's quite a lot. And then they go into the consult room. Particularly if they're having injections, then there's just a lot to deal with. So at least if you can just deal with the cat carrier side of it, that's one less thing to worry about.
What I've found is mine's only like a 5-minute walk to the vet's around the corner. And if I'm carrying him and taking him there, it's only when I'm taking him that I realise how loud the world is. Do you ever discover that? I'm like, I'll step outside. And I always think it's like, I imagine in like the start of a Pixar film, if they wanted to show like a cat going out that shouldn't be out and seeing like the scary world, it'll be like 4 buses will come past in one. And it'll be like insane. These big trucks coming past and you hear them doing like, doo-doom, and they go over like a drain or something. And it gets so loud. But what I have found is one way to get them into the carrier, which isn't really helpful to take them to the vets, is certainly with Richard Parker. When he's been to the vets, as soon as they're finished with him, he'll jump down off the table and get back in his carrier.
Oh yeah,
and suddenly he's a big fan of it.
Yeah.
Suddenly, can't wait to be in the carrier.
That's super common. I'd say most cats do that.
Yeah. That's brilliant. So we've got a email sent to us from Scarlett on behalf of her mum, who says, I've noticed my cat spraying recently. She's fixed and 9 years old. I've never seen her do this before. What's going on? So is this normal behaviour for a cat to start spraying all of a sudden, or?
So spraying, there's a lot to unpack with spraying. First and foremost, both male and female cats can spray, and they can spray whether they're neutered or not neutered. So I think that's because everyone thinks it's unneutered toms or male cats, but actually the girls can do it too, and they can do it for sexual reasons. So you want to rule that side of it out. Even when they are neutered, it's still worth looking for, again, whether they're male or female, but looking for some of the reproductive tract that could be, some of the tissue left behind can still release hormones that then can still give off, the reasons for wanting to spray sexually. So looking for that. And then behaviourally wise, I would say that even though it's like a normal behaviour outside, it is abnormal when it's in the house from the cat's perspective. So it is a sign of something's not right in their world. It's really important not to take it personally. Everyone takes it personally. And I get it. I really do, because it's not nice to deal with. But just think of it as like a red flag. Something's not right in their world. They're trying to communicate this to themselves and to you. And so you need to get them to have a vet check to rule out anything medical that could be going on with them, and then go see a qualified behaviourist from the Animal Behaviour and Training Council to sort of go through all the different things that could potentially be. The most common reason is stress. Cats hide stress really well, and there's about 1 million different things that stress the cat out. But one of the most common reasons for a cat to spray if they're stressed is other cats. Either inside the house, outside the house, or both sometimes.
Yeah. So that could be something just as simple as the cat being able to see another cat in the garden potentially, or something like that.
Even if you just like bringing in shopping or a new sofa or something, like smells from outside can cause them to spray. Right. So yeah,
it's just about a process of elimination, is it? And just,
it is, and that's why you need to get your qualified behaviourist in to sort of do that detective work, if you like, because I think when you're so close to the problem as well, it's hard to think what's changed in the environment. So yeah.
And it could be really subtle, I suppose, the change, and you kind of not aware of it, or you don't realise that something so subtle could impact the cat that much.
Definitely. There's one case where the person had potted up her plant using soil from outside, and every time they sprayed that plant, it really brought out the smell from the soil as well. But that soil from outside had been peed in by another cat. So every time, they sprayed it and brought the scent up, it basically felt like they were under attack from another cat. And then they were trying to spray to be like, no, this is my territory.
God, you'd never think that, would you?
Yeah, you wouldn't. No. So
we've got a final email from Valentina now, who says, my cat molts all year round, and I wonder why. I think he's a British short hair as well. But I think cats sort of molting, I never really thought that my cat did until I wore like a black t-shirt and black jeans, and I went outside and I was like, oh yeah, she definitely does, because all my clothes are just covered in cat fur now. But you don't see it until you go outside sometimes. But does it happen all the time, all year round, or is it more prevalent in certain seasons or certain months?
So it is more prevalent in certain seasons that they will seasonally molt and sort of grow new coats and things like that. I would recommend in your situation you have a black cat.
I know. I mean,
so the black cat, the fur isn't showing up quite so much.
Considering I do wear a lot of black, I'm thinking to myself, I might have to start. She's tortoise shell, but with like white as well, so she's multicoloured. So it'd be great with a shirt.
With the shirt, it's fine.
Perfect.
And then also, like, when you mentioned about the British Shorthair, so they've got like this double dense fur, so it's like twice as thick, if you like, than the average moggy. So it's different pedigrees will have different types of coats, and they just need to be groomed and treated accordingly. And there's all different types of grooming tools out there, and as we've talked about before about grooming, getting really, really used to it gradually. Whereas, your average short-haired cat will molt less than a long-haired cat.
Do you have any cat hair issues, Jake?
Yeah.
That really weird, I know.
I just have a nice, like a purple brush that I brush in.
Oh, is that the Zoom Groom?
Maybe it is this.
I love the Zoom Groom. Yes. I've got a Zoom Groom too. It's a really good one.
See, only on this podcast could you say that with such passion. Do you know what I mean? But does he like being brushed? Because my cat hates it. She hates it.
You need a Zoom Groom.
Yeah, you need a Zoom Groom. You're using the wrong brush. But that's it. And then to him, it's like a treat. And he sort of does the like a head massage. Down, back up, like, oh, yes, please.
Wait, what's the brush like?
It's like a rubbery one. Right. And it's got kind of like, not spikes, because that sounds a bit harsh, but like rubbery.
Yeah, but they're soft,
rubbery spikes.
Rounded.
Rounded, yes. That are more like a kind of gentle massage. And you obviously need to sort of do it gradually. And when you're introducing it, build it up on the areas where they like to be touched first, and then work around the rest of the body slowly. But it's a good one.
I mean, that's great if you can get to the point where your cat feels like it's a treat. Yeah. That's like, it's just like, I mean, I think because my cat's semi-long haired though as well, there's an added, she does tend to get knots and she can get matted quite easy. So I think she's a little bit more
High maintenance.
Yeah, that's the best way of putting it. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I'm like that when we're brushing my. I'm very head sore with my hair. Do you know what I mean?
You've got fabulous hair.
Yeah, but when if brushing my hair out, or go to the hairdressers for a trim, or whatever, and they're like, just need to relax, and I'm there thinking, I can't really complain that my cat's like that really when I'm like that. So maybe she's learned it from me. Probably my fault. Bad parenting. So yeah, that's our final cat's tale for this episode. Jake, thanks so much for joining us on Cat's Got Your Tongue. One final question that we do want to ask, though, we always ask, is what is the best thing about owning a cat?
Oh, that's a very good question. Apart from being able to come on this podcast.
Of course.
The best thing about owning a cat is it is that thing of like, whenever they do come and give you attention, and it is more than I think than like dog owners realize, like we do get a lot of attention from our cats, but it does just feel very special. And then it's just something about the cat that, like, if I get home, often he does come and greet me, like, and he will come I think that's the best thing about it is like you get home and he'll come running up the stairs. He'll come like wherever to come, like when he hears that I'm doing something, he'll come and greet me, or he doesn't greet you. And you just get to play this amazing game of hide and seek to go, oh, what random place has he decided to put himself now? So it's a win-win.
Yeah, that's so true. I love that game. Like, I love being greeted by my cat, but at the same time, when I can't, because I know she's an indoor cat, when I can't find her, I'm like, what is she up to now? This is brilliant. And it is that moment that, like, it's like a magical minute in it when you just like, you try looking at the usual places and you're like, well, she's not there. So what, she found somewhere new. And yeah, I'm so with you on that, Jake. So with you. That's it for this week's episode on Cat's Got Your Tongue in association with Cats Protection. Thanks again, Jake, for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I've loved it, honestly. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thanks, Nicky, as always, for providing the expertise of all things cat behaviour. Remember to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Tell your friends who love cats about us. Share the podcast. Give us a review. And if you want to get in touch to share your own cat's tales, you can do. Just give us a shout, pod@cats.org.uk. And we'll see you next time on Cat's Got Your Tongue. So, did you know that by signing up to become a Cats Protection member, you'll get 24-hour access via telephone, live chat or video call to the qualified veterinary nurses at VetPhone that can help answer any medical concerns that you might have about your cat whenever they arise. And you'll also receive the Cat Magazine, regular newsletters, a personal membership card and a pin badge. Plus, you'll be helping Cats Protection make a better life for cats. You can sign up today at cats.org.uk/membership.